Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar. In this webinar we will discuss the last section of the fractions unit, and this section will be on multiplying and dividing fractions. This is myself. My name is Mariam. I'm your math instructor here at Penn Foster. I like to teach math and I am certified to teach high school mathematics in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm working on my master's as well, and I hope I earn that this year. Today in this webinar, we're going to discuss this unit, fractions, which is the second unit in General Math 1. Other courses that we offer that you may have, you are taking right now or you're planning to take is Consumer Math and Business Math. Both of them has fractions as well. So if you're taking those courses, if you're planning or you have them coming to you, you are welcome to stay and attend the presentation, ask questions. If you even not doing any math, because math is everywhere around us, if you want just to brush up on your math or fractions skills, you're welcome to attend as well. This webinar, we will have self-check questions. So after a discussion of a major topic, we're going to have a question for you. You're going to spend a minute or so to solve that question depending on the discussion that we had to assess yourself. No grading, no points, nothing will be tracked. Those questions are merely for you to assess yourself and see where you are. Questions are welcome. Please keep them relevant to the presentation that we are going to do today. Please type your questions in the questions box. The raise your hand feature is not enabled. So if you have a question and you think it's relevant, please type it. Even if you have a general question, I didn't answer that, it doesn't mean that I didn't get the question. It just means I'm going to save that for later. Also, all registrants for this webinar, either you are with us today attending the webinar or you didn't have the chance to come and attend the live webinar, you will receive a follow-up email with the recorded webinar, so you are able to use that as many times as you wish to prepare for the exam. Today, as I said, we're going to look at multiplication and division for fractions. We're going to look at the different collections of questions that you may see in the practice exercises or maybe the exam. We're going to look at the cancellation method, and we're going to learn that cancellation method makes everything easy when we multiply. And also we're going to learn that reciprocal are part of the division process. We're going to learn that down the road. Let's start with the first bunch of questions we're going to have. We're going to start with really simple ones just to get the idea of how to multiply fractions. So multiplying fractions is easier, and dividing too is easier than addition and subtraction, because we are not required to have common denominators. If you remember with the last webinar, if we didn't have common denominators in our fractions, we couldn't add them. We had to find a common denominator for both fractions, do some changes, and then we are able to add. With multiplication, we do not have to have these. In multiplication, though, we are gonna use the cancellation method, and this cancellation method basically simplifies the problem, simplifies the numbers I have in my fractions before I multiply them and then get even bigger numbers. They have to still simplify to get to my final answer, which is the simplest form of my fraction. So let's see, how would I start with the cancellation method if possible. Some fractions or some problems you are not able to use the cancellation method, but if you are able to use it, please use it. It's going to make your life easier. So we're going to look at 3 over 5 times 15 over 12. The way we're going to think about that, or the way we're going to check if we are able to use the cancellation method, is look at the top numbers and look at the bottom numbers. Are there any common factors exists between one number from the top and another one from the bottom? For example, 3 and 5. Do we have any common factors? 3 for 3, the factors are 3 and 1. It's a prime number. 5 is a prime number as well. 5 and 1. Nothing common. Well, the 1 is a common factor, but 1 doesn't affect our fractions. It's not going to make our fractions simpler because we're going to end up dividing over that common factor. So if you divide 3 over 1 and 5 over 1, is it going to make a difference? No. So 1, we do not consider the 1 as a common factor, although mathematically it is, but it's not going to be helpful for us in this case. So I need to look for one number from the top and one number from the bottom that may have common factors that's not a 1. So 15 and 5, yes, 15 is a multiple of 5. So in this case, 5 is a common factor between 5 and 15. Divide over that factor. So over 5 and over 5. Remember, we're going to have one number from the bottom with one number from the top. So let's rewrite our question. So far we have 3. 5 over 5 is a 1 times 15 over 5 will give you 3. And then 12 remains. We didn't change that. What else? What else? Can I go further and use my cancellation method further? Can I simplify the problem? Yes or no? Look at 3 and 1. No. 3 and 1. No. 3 and 12 or 3 and 12. I can take whatever 3, both of them are on the top, choose one of them with the 12 on the bottom. What do you think? 3 and 12. What is the common factor between 3 and 12? 3. 3 is a common factor between 3 and 12, so we need to divide over 3. Divide over 3 and divide over 3. So let's rewrite the problem. 3 over 1 times 1 over 4. See, we started with 3, 5, 15, 12. Now we have much smaller numbers, 3 and 1, 1 and 4. So let's multiply. When do I decide to multiply across? When do I decide that there is no more chance for me to use the cancellation method? Check the top numbers with the bottom numbers. Do we have any common factors left? 3 and 1, no. 3 and 4, no. 1 and 1, nothing. 1 and 4, nothing. At this point, I'm going to decide to multiply across. The numerator times the numerator, 3, over 1 times 4 will give you 4. And guess what? Most of the cases, when you are doing all you have to do with the cancellation method, you're going to end up with a simplified answer. Sometimes you don't. You have to simplify the answer further to put it in simplest form. But still, if you have to do that, that would be minimal work for you because you have done the simplification already throughout your steps here in the cancellation method. So your answer is, the product is 3 over 4. Any questions so far? Anything that wasn't clear? So for you who have just joined after our introduction, if you have a question, you can type it in the question box. Okay, let's do B together. I'm going slowly just to introduce the topic, and then if you notice by the end of the webinar, we're going to be repeating all of those steps. It's just going to be maybe a step extra on in the beginning of the question, depending on what are we multiplying. But so far, the main idea will stay the same. Even with division, you will discover that this division is actually multiplication with a little tweak. So let's do B and do the same thing. Those bubbles in my slides, they summarize the rules for each kind of question. So here we're just multiplying a fraction times a fraction. Later we're going to multiply a mixed number times a mixed number. What are the rules? So these are just a shorthand of the rules. If you want to write them in your notebook, like in a sheet of paper, just to keep them handy whenever you are doing the practice questions, so you don't have to flip over back and forth in the study unit to find a specific rule. B, 200 over 150 times 16 over 27. What should we do? First step I need to consider, can I cancel out anything to make my life easier? Okay, I see 200 and 150. One of the rules that we use for dividing two numbers and finding out if they have common factors between them is if the two numbers have zeros at the end of them, then one common factor is 10. Divide over 10 and divide over 10. Eliminate that 10. Let's rewrite the problem. 200 divided by 10 is 20 over 15. I didn't touch the second fraction, so bring it as is. 16 over 27. Okay, now let's see again. Do we have anything in common here? Well, 20 and 15. This number ends with a 0 and this number ends with a 5. The rule says when this happens, you have two numbers, one ends with a 0, the other one ends with a 5, then one other common factor is 5. Eliminate that factor, divide over 5 and divide over 5 equals 2. So 20 over 5 will give you 4. 15 over 5 will give you 3. I still have my 16 times, or over, I'm sorry, 27. Okay, let's check. 4 and 27, nothing common. 4 and 3, no. 16 and 3, no. 16 and 27, nothing. So at this point, even the second fraction looks a little bit bigger in numbers that we have, 16 and 27, but there is nothing more to eliminate. Then I'm going to go ahead and multiply and multiply. So our answer will be, when you multiply the tops, 4 times 16 will give you 64 on the top. On the bottom, 3 times 27 will give you 81. There is nothing common between 64 and 81. You can go ahead and list all of the factors of 64, all of the factors of 81, and see if there is anything common between the two lists, but you're not going to find any. So this is your simplest form of the answer. Now in your study unit, you may see that they are using the crossed out numbers. So for example, if I'm gonna use the cancellation method and go back to that step, so instead of having divide over 5, they may just cross out the 20 and have a little 5 over that. The same thing with the 5. They just cross it, the 15, they cross it out and have the 5. I'm sorry, the 4. My mistake. So they cross out the 20, saying that 20 over 5 is 4, and then cross out the 15. 15 over 5 will give you 3. So this or that, the way you're going to write it this way or this way, crossing out numbers, is the same. Whatever is convenient for you to do, whatever is clear for you to do, so you don't lose track of what we are doing at the moment, just do it. There is no right way of writing things here. So the main idea, just divide. Any questions? Okay, let's move on to the third example. 35 over 12 times 60 over 7. With practice, you will catch numbers. So 35 and 7, one on the top and one on the bottom, that catches your eye. You know that 35 is a multiple of 7. I need to use that. It's something, it's a plus in the question. It's giving me something to use. So right away, I'm going to recognize that 7 and 35 has 7 in common. So divide over 7 and divide over 7. Rewrite the problem. I like to go step by step. So if you want to do these two numbers as well and cancel them out, or cancel the common factor between them out before you rewrite the problem, you can, but just make sure you don't, rush through the problem and do a mistake here or there that you end up with the incorrect answer. So 35 divided by 7 will give you 5. On the top, 12 will remain, times 60 will remain, and then 7 over 7 is 1. I see 60 and 12. Isn't that 60 is a multiple of 12? Yes, by practice you will catch these. So don't think that because I'm the teacher, so I know. Well, I had my time where I just struggled. Which factor should I do? 2 well, 2 will work, but it has to lead you to other steps to do to eliminate the greatest common factor. So 2 is a common factor between 60 and 12. We know that. But what's the greatest common factor? So when we divide over that factor, we're done with these 2 numbers. It will take you a little time. As I said, it's just practice. So 12 is a common factor between 12 and 60. Divide over 12 and divide over 12 equals to 5 over 1 times 5 over 1. Now, nothing come between 5 and 1, 5 and 1, 5 and 1, no, and 5 and 1, nothing. Then just multiply across. 5 and 5, 5 times 5 is 25 over 1. Any number over 1 is really a whole number, 25. So your answer is a whole number. Again, like I mentioned in the webinar for addition and subtraction. If your answer is just a whole number, you did everything correct, you did the cancellation method correctly, you eliminated everything that you needed to, you rewrote the problem the right way, you multiplied the right way, and just ended up with a whole number answer, don't doubt yourself. It may happen that when you multiply or add 2 fractions, maybe your answer is a whole number. Any questions? Anything that was not clear? Okay, let's move on to a self-check question on that topic, on that level of difficulty. Let's see what question we have. So now we multiply 3 over 12 times 18 over 9. How would you do that? Which numbers you're going to eliminate? What is the common factor between 3 and 9 if there is any? 18 and 12, what do you think? I'm going to leave you think about that problem, and your screen will change to give you the same question with answer choices, and you're able to choose the one that you think is correct. And again, those questions are not graded. It's not a test. It's just for you to assess yourself. Here you go. I'm gonna wait for another few seconds so you're able to, everyone able to plug in their answers. And really, I think it's a good practice that you have a live teacher here. I mean, I'm live with the webinar, and you can answer the question and look at the final answer and then ask your questions. And this is how you get feedback on your understanding of things, and this is how we learn, all of us, we learn. Okay, let me then share my final answer, and I hope that everyone who decided to enter their answers are done. Okay, so the final answer for that question is 1 over 2. If you need to see that question, you're not sure, or maybe you have it wrong, but now you realize which step that you didn't get, then you're fine. If you have it wrong and you do not know why you had it wrong, then you may ask to see how we can do that question. Okay, great. So Simon, so the same rules. 3 and 9, the common factor is 3. Divide over 3, that would be 1. Divide over 3, that would be 3. Okay, 18 and 12. 18 and 12, I'm thinking about the 2. I'm going to go with the 2 because both of them are even numbers. Then I can use the 2. So over 2, that will give you 9, and over 2, that will give you 6. I'm not done. I see 9 and 6. So that tells me that there's another common factor I need to eliminate. 9 and 6, they have 3 in common. So divide over 3, that's a 3. Divide over 3, that's a 2. So far, let's rewrite the problem. 1 over 2 times 3 over 3. Oh, I see 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom. I can eliminate that, and for sure, the common factor is 3. 3 over 3 is 1, and 3 over 3 is 1. Now multiply across. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2, and that's why the answer is 1 over 2. Okay, let's proceed to the next section. What if we have two mixed numbers that we need to multiply? What to do? Okay, so first I'm going to start with what we are not going to do. We are not going to multiply 2 times 3 and then do the cancellation method if possible, and then multiply the numerators and the denominators. We're not going to do that. The way we're going to do that is first we need to prepare our question. So we need to switch each mixed number to the improper form of that mixed number. How? Let's remind you of how would we do that, and that was discussed in webinar 1. 2 times 2, we multiply and then add. So 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5, and then keep the denominator. It was a 2, keep it as a 2. Times, it's a mixed number, cannot stay like that. Change it to improper fraction. Times plus 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16 on the top, and the 5 will remain in the denominator. Now, it looks like one of the problems that we had done in the previous slide. Now we can consider if we are able to cancel out anything. So let's see. 5 and 5, that's a give out. This is like a gift for us. Over 5, it's a 1. Over 5, it's a 1. What else? 16 and 2. What do you think? It's an even number, then divide over 2 and divide over 2. Let's rewrite the problem. 1 over 1 times 8 over 1 equals 2. Now we are ready to multiply across. It's 8 over 1, which is really a whole number 8. And that's your answer. Let's repeat the same thing for the second question. The second question has one mixed number times a fraction. Which one that we're going to do a preparation for? Only the mixed number. The fraction will stay as is. So let's do that. Multiply and then add. 1 times 3 is 3 plus 2 is 5 over 3. Times, it's already a fraction, leave it as is. And now let's think about the cancellation method if possible. Well, I see 6 and 12. Yes, 6 and 12. 6 is a common factor because 12 is a multiple of 6, right? So divide over 6, that will give you 1. Divide over 6, that will give you 2. What else? What do I have here? Nothing common. 5 and 3, nothing. 5 and 2, nothing. 1 and 3, nothing. 1 and 2, nothing. I can just go ahead and multiply across. So let's rewrite the problem just to be clear on what we have. Times 1 over 2. Now multiply across and multiply across. 5 times 1 is 5 over 6. And that's your answer. Last example, C, 7 over 10 times 1 and 8 over 10. Okay, so I'm not going to get excited and say, oh, 1 times 1 or 1 times nothing, just put it 1. No, I have to follow the rules. So 7 over 10 is a fraction. I'm not going to change that. Times 1 times 10 is 10 plus 18 is going to give you, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself. 1 times 10 is 10 plus 8 is 18 over 10. Now, one common problem that you see with exams. Oh, 10 and 10, let's cancel them out. You know, it's 10 and 10, that's a 1 and that's a 1. This is wrong because the both of the 10s are at the bottom. We cannot do that. We have to get one from the bottom and one from the top. So the 10 and the 10 will not cancel out with each other. So we need to look for other way to simplify our problem. Well, I have 10 and 18. So I can just divide over 2, you know, because they're even numbers. So 18 divided by 2 will give you 9, and 10 divided by 2, or I can choose this 10, this or that. 10 over 2 will give you 5. Okay, let's rewrite the problem. We have 7 over 10 times 9 over 5. Okay, let's see. Do I have anything I can cancel out? 7 and 5, nothing. 7 and 10, no. 9 and 10, no. 9 and 5, no. Just multiply across. Equals 2. 7 times 9 will give you 63 on the top. On the bottom, 10 times 5, of course, is 50. This answer is not in simplest form. We need to place or to put our answers in simplest form. And I need to announce that with exams, if you had this multiplication problem, for example, as one of the questions in the exam, and you found out that this is the answer, you look at the answer choices, you cannot find your answer, even though you are sure you did everything right and you did. But what's the problem? The problem is the answers in the choices given in each questions are put in simplest form. So we need to simplify this answer. How or why? Because this fraction is an improper fraction. So our simplest forms need to be either proper fractions like these or mixed number with a proper fraction. So let's remind ourselves of how did we change an improper fraction to a mixed number. We asked ourselves, how many times 50 will go into 63? You will figure it out, it's going to be once, 1. Or for bigger numbers, if you have like thousands here, you know, and you're not going to waste your time thinking about that, you can use your calculator. How you going to do that? You're going to divide the top number, 63, over 50 and hit equal. And that will give you 1 and some decimals. Take the 1 and ignore the decimals. So the 1 will be the whole number part of your mixed number. And then the 50 will stay. Now the only thing we need to figure out is the top number. What is that? We figure out this number by multiplying. 1 times 50 will give you 50. 63 minus the 50 will give you 13. 13 over 50, it's in simplest form. Just don't look at the 1 now. I'm looking at the fraction part. It is in simplest form, nothing common between 13 and 50, and it is a proper fraction. That makes this answer, 1 and 13 over 50, your final answer, your simplest form of the answer. Any questions here? Anything that you want me to repeat or do again? Okay, let's have some practice with one other self-check question. 1 and 5 over 6 times 5 and 2 over 6, we have two mixed number. What should I do first before I do the cancellation method? And what's the answer? I'm gonna make the screen change, and here you go. So I'm gonna wait for a few seconds for everyone to be able to do the question, even if that question disappeared and you didn't have the time to think all the way till the end until you get your final answer and choose that. You can, when you get the recording, you can just pause the video, work on the problem, and then compare the answers. Okay, so let's do that problem. I'm gonna provide the final answer, and as I said, if you want really to see how did we do that, let me know with the through the question box. So the final answer is 9 and 7 over 9. That's the final answer, I mean the simplest form of the answer. Anyone wants to see this question? Okay, let's move on then. Even if you not sure and then you got the recording and then still you're not sure how did we get to that answer, you can email the school saying, hey, this question was part of the webinar, the instructor said the answer is so and so, how come, can you explain that to me? And you will get an email back explaining everything. Okay, let's multiply whole numbers times a mixed number. How should we proceed from there? What are the rules? What should we do first before we cancel out anything? So of course we're not gonna cancel out 10 and 40. That's nothing to do with what we need to do. So the rule says if you see a whole number and you're trying to divide or multiply, you change that 10 to a fraction by simply placing a 1 in the denominator. Now it's a fraction. With a mixed number, we know what to do. Switch that to an improper fraction. 1 times 40 will give you 40 plus 31. That will give you 71 on the top. So basically, our question is now 10 over 1 times 71 over 40. That's it. Now I see 10 and 40. At this point, I am able to cancel out things or eliminate common factors. So of course, 10 and 40, they have 10 in common. Divide over 10, it's a 1. Divide over 10, it's a 4. 1 and 1, nothing. 1 and 4, 71 and 1, and 71 and 4, nothing. I'm ready just to multiply across. And I'm going to rewrite that question so we're clear on what we have, times 71 over 4. And that will give you 71 over 4. This is not the simplest form. This is an improper fraction. We need it either to be a proper fraction or a mixed number with a proper fraction. So change it to a mixed number. How many times 4 goes into 71? Or you can use your calculator to figure out that number. 17. 17 times 4 will stay in the denominator. What would be the top number, the remainder? What would be that? 17 times 4, and then subtract 71 minus that product. Let me work out that problem to give you specifically what we're going to do. So 17 times 4, that will give you 68. And then do 71 minus 68, and that will give you on the top 3. And 3 is the remainder. So this is your final answer. Same thing with B. I have a whole number times a fraction. The fraction is no problem. The whole number I need to change to 30 over 1. And then I'm going to see if I can cancel out anything to make it easier on me. So I see 14 and 21. Isn't these two numbers or multiples of 7? Yes, they have a 7 in common. So eliminate the 7. Divide over 7 and divide over the 7. Now you have 30 over 1 times 2 over 3. Okay, well I see 30 and 3. 30 is a multiple of 3, and 3 is the common factor. Then just divide over 3. Over 3 and over 3 equals 2. 30 divided by 3 is 10. I still have over 1 times 2 over 1. And then you're just going to multiply across, nothing common, nothing to eliminate further. Then your answer is 20. It's 20 over 1, and then it's 20. And that's your final answer. Okay, let's look at a question that you can practice. 9 times a mixed number, 1 and 1 over 6. And here you go. You can try this out and see how you're going to do that and find out the product of that. Okay, let me share the final answer for that multiplication question, and the answer is 10 and half. Anyone would like to see how we did that, or you're fine? Okay, let's move on to the second half of this webinar, division. How do we divide two fractions? Well, division is overwhelming to students because guess what? We have 3 symbols of division, 1, 2, and 3. How can we divide two fractions like that? The rules are simple. So let's go ahead and um, apply the rules, and later on you will realize, as I said before, division is a little bit different than multiplication, but we will have to multiply down the road to get to the answer of division problems. Let's do that. So if you have a division problem, I'm going to say the things that we cannot do. We cannot cancel out any factors before we do the following steps. So what I mean is we cannot divide 3 over 3 and 12 over 3 and simplify our problem from the beginning like that. We need to do the 3 steps we have to do now and then consider the cancellation if possible. First step, keep the first fraction as is. That's easy, 5 over 3. Switch the division symbol to multiplication, times, and then find the reciprocal of the second fraction. What is a reciprocal of a fraction? Just a fraction flipped over. So we had a 12 over 9, make it 9 over 12. Does this problem look familiar to you? Yes, it's a multiplication problem and two fractions. Apply then the multiplication rules. Now we can consider canceling out things that we do not need to make our question simpler. We have 9 and 3, divide over 3, that's a 1, divide over 3, that's a 3. Oh, I have 3 and 12. Eliminate that. So a common factor is 3. Divide over 3. That's a 1. Divide over 3. That is a 4. Let's rewrite the problem to see what do we have now. 5 over 1 times 1 over 4. And that's it. Nothing common. Go ahead and multiply across. 5 times 1 will give you 5 on the top and then 4 on the bottom. That's not a simplest form of the answer because that's an improper fraction. Switch it to a mixed number, which is going to be 1 and 1/4. That's it. Any questions here? See, so division is actually multiplication. I had a question one time in one of those webinars asking, how come when we divide, we multiply? Shouldn't we divide? Well, the combination of multiplying the reciprocal is equivalent to dividing. So that's why we're multiplying times the reciprocal. It is equivalent to dividing over the original fraction. Okay, let's do B. Same thing, same rules. Keep the question as is, the fraction as is, the first one, 25 over 60 times 5 over 20. Okay, now I can consider if I'm going to be able to cancel out or no. So let's look. We have 5 and 20. 5 is a common factor. Eliminate the 5 over 5 and over 5. So, or we can just cancel the 5. So 5 over 5 is 1, and then 20 over 5 is 4. So these are the new numbers here. Okay, so let's rewrite the problem. 25 over 60 times 1 over 4. Do we have anything else? Oh, 25 and 60. One number ends with a 5 and one number ends with a 0. Then a common factor I'm sure of is 5. Divide over 5 and divide over 5. Let's do that and rewrite the problem. 25 over 5 is 5. 60 over 5 is 12. I still have to multiply that times 1 over 4. Nothing common between 5 and 12, nothing between 5 and 4, 1 and 12, 1 and 4 now, then just multiply across. 5 times 1 is 5, over 12 times 4 will give you 48. Nothing common between 5 and 48, that's your final answer. And that's it. So we are repeating everything that we have learned since the beginning of the webinar. The only things that we do is few extra steps in the beginning of questions as needed, depending on which numbers that we are multiplying or dividing. So let's try one self-check, simple division problem, a fraction over a fraction. How would you do that? So I'm going to give you the chance to do that. So here's the question. Okay, let me share my final answer. And of course, I have to repeat that. If you need me to work out the problem, let me know. 1 and 4 over 5 is the quotient for that division problem. Okay, let's move on to the next set of problems. Guess what? Mixed numbers over mixed numbers. What should we do? Do we change the problem first to a multiplication problem and then change each mixed number to an improper fraction, or we do it the other way around, change it to improper fraction and then change the question to multiplication? Okay, let's see. One, we have to change each improper fraction to a mixed number and then change the problem to a multiplication problem. Let's do that. So 2 and 1 over 2 is actually 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 will give you 5 on the top over 2. Divided by, we're not going to change anything to multiplication yet. This is a common mistake I see in exams. So 5 over 2, we're just at this point changing every single mixed number to an improper fraction. We're not going to touch the division sign. Keep it as is. 1 and 1 over 4. 1 times 4 is 4, plus 1 is another 5 on the top over 4. Now I have a fraction divided by a fraction. Now I am safe to change it to a multiplication problem. Let's do that. 3 steps. Keep the first fraction as is, change to multiplication, and then find the reciprocal. This is going to be 4 over 5. Can we cancel out anything? Let's look. Oh, 5 and 5. 5 over 5 is 1. 5 over 5 is 1. 4 and 2. Yes, 2 over 2 is 1. And 4 over 2 is 1. I'm sorry, 4 over 2 is 2. The end of the day, you know. So now we multiply and multiply. So 1 times 2 will give you 2 over 1 equals to 2. The quotient is 2. That's it. Let's repeat the same thing. We have a mixed number divided by a fraction. First, change the mixed number to an improper fraction. 3 times 5 is 15 plus 2 will give you 17 on the top, and then over 5 divided by 5 over 15. Next, change the problem to a multiplication problem. Keep the fraction as is, the first one, times, flip the second fraction over. So we had a 5 over 15, it's going to be 15 over 5. Can we cancel out anything to make it simpler to us? Well, let's look here. So we have 15 and 5, or we can go with 15 and 5. So 5 is a common factor, 1, and then 15 over 5 will give you 3. Anything else? Nothing. So far we are multiplying 17 over 1 times 3 over 5. Multiply across 17 times 3 will give you 51, and then over 5. Not in simplest form since it's an improper fraction. Change it to a mixed number, which is, you're going to figure it out, is 10 and 1 over 5. That's it. Any question? Anything that's not clear, or anything they expected me to cover in that topic and I did not? Okay, of course you can expect that the next one is a self-check problem. A mixed number divided by a mixed number. How would you do that? So here's the question. Okay, let me share the final answer of that question. And it is 2 and 29 over 112. This fraction is the answer. I mean, however, it doesn't look pleasant, it looks bulky, but this is your final answer. Don't doubt yourself too if you don't have a cute fraction. If this is how it looks, then this is the answer. What all matters if it's correct or no. Okay, let's move on to the next set of questions. Well, it has one question here, which is really simple because we have done that before with multiplication. A mixed number over a whole number. We're going to apply the same thing. So 1, we're going to change everything that we need to, and then change the problem to a multiplication problem. Let's do that. So 3 times 7 will give you 21 plus 1 that will give you 22 on the top, and 7 will stay in the denominator, divided by. We're not going to change anything to multiplication yet. The 2 is a whole number, like we did with multiplication. 2 over 1 is a fraction form. So it's a fraction divided by a fraction. Now I'm ready to switch everything to a multiplication problem. So keep the first fraction as is. I'm repeating myself here because the more we hear it, the more we practice it, the more we are getting good at it. So times 1 over 2. And now we're going to look for common factors. Oh, I have 22 and 2. That's obvious. Then 2 over 2 is 1. 22 over 2 is 11. So now our problem is actually 11 over 7 times 1 over 1. Nothing common between these numbers, then just go ahead and multiply. 11 over 7, not in simplest form since it's an improper fraction, then switch it to a mixed number, 1 and 4 over 7. And that's your final answer. That's it. So it's a matter of ordering your steps. This is one thing I find maybe confusing for students, that what should we do first? What should I do first? So those bubbles will have the steps in order, so you are clear on where to start. The final self-check for that webinar is 3 divided by 2 and 3 over 9. How should we do that? Where to start? Go ahead. Okay, let me share the final answer then for this question, and of course let me know if you want to see the question. So the final answer is 1 and 2 over 7. Now, if you got most of those questions incorrect during that webinar, please don't get discouraged. It does not mean that you will never get fractions. It just means that you need to go back, study more, ask questions, discover, just work more on these topics. It doesn't mean that you will not be good at math, please. So it's not meant to discourage you. It's meant to guide you where to go, where to focus, where to do more problems, which areas. Is it multiplication? Is it maybe you're doing everything right, but you are not able to switch the next number to the right improper fraction? For example, that will cause you to get an incorrect answer. Search where you have the incorrect step, so that way you can work on it and improve it. So take those questions as a guide to you and a sign to you if you're ready for the exam or not. So in this webinar, we have looked at how to multiply and divide a bunch of, different kind of problem. Mixed numbers with fractions, fractions times a whole number, mixed numbers divided by a whole number, how to do these, what to do first. So we went over that. We learned that we need to, with multiplications, we need to use the cancellation method first. Also, we learned that division is essentially multiplication with a tweak. Last thing that I see that students do often is they use the cancellation method before they change the question to the multiplication question. We need to do the cancellation method, if possible, after you are able to change the question to multiplication. For the exam, please study. I have talked to many students, they will just rely on their memory of fractions from back then when they were in schools. you may be good at math back then, but when we grow up and we just don't practice things as often, we just tend to forget or, confuse rules. So go back and study. It's, fraction is not, something that's impossible to understand. It has just only the rules that you need to follow and follow correctly. So how to prepare for the exam? You need to read the lessons. You need to work out, like a couple of examples appears in the discussion of the lesson, and then comes the section for the self-checks questions or the practice questions. Sometimes it's called practice questions or self-check. Do them. Have a notebook. Write 1A equals so and so, and the final answer is that. Circle your final answer. Go back to the answer key, which we have in that course. For each single self-check question or practice question, you have the answer key either in a separate document that is titled A Closer Look Answer Key Supplement, or at the end of each self-check group of questions, you will have the link where you have to click here, and then the answers will appear. Compare your answers. If most of them are correct, then it's a sign for you that you are really ready for the exam. If most of them are incorrect, it doesn't mean that you're going to fail the course. It just means that you have to wait not to take the exam and work more on the questions. If you need help, resources for that course are email the instructor, email the school through your help center, or sometimes it's called the help and support center. Go there, write us an email saying practice exercise 1, number A, the answer is so and so, but my answer is so and so. Can you explain? You can call the school, of course, 9 to 6 Eastern Time on weekdays. Some videos are there already for fractions and old webinars recorded. You can make use of that and watch that and make notes. Khanacademy.org, it's a nice site. I love that site, very organized, neat, and has good looking and very concise recorded lectures for you on all types of math, basic math, intermediate math, advanced math, whatever you like. So you go there, search by topic, and see if you find something useful to you. YouTube, of course, is a free, tool for everyone. If you're not sure how to add, subtract, divide, search that on YouTube. Great teachers are spending time just to share their knowledge and, educate students all over the world. And that's it. That's it for me. So do you have any questions for me? Even a general question on the program or the course, or maybe a math question in that unit. So you're able to type that in the questions box, and I'll be happy to assist with that. I'm going to wait for 30 seconds. If you cannot think of anything, then I will wish you good luck. Okay, well, if you think of anything, then after we finish the webinar, you're able to email or call the school. Thank you so much for being here and practicing with me the self-checks. Thanks for your attendance, and thanks for everyone who registered for the webinar. Good luck.